When Michael found photos of his wife with another man, he feared the worst. But what he uncovered wasn't an affair, it was a trap. And the person behind it, the last one he ever suspected. Michael and Rachel had what most people would call a rock-solid marriage. 5 years in, they still laughed together, supported each other, and held on through the hard days. Michael, a firefighter in Austin, was the kind of man who never raised his voice unless someone's life depended on it. Calm, grounded, loyal. Rachel worked in publishing, a sharp editor with a keen eye and a no-nonsense attitude. Reserved by nature, she had never been one to fall for sweet talk or empty charm. They were opposites in many ways. Michael was easygoing, sociable, the guy everyone liked. Rachel was thoughtful, guarded, the one who always saw through people's masks. But it worked. That balance held everything together until something started to shift. It began with what she told herself was just a coincidence. A man, tall, well-groomed, with the kind of confidence that felt more rehearsed than natural, smiled at her in the dairy aisle of the grocery store. She barely registered him, just another stranger in a busy store. 2 days later, he was in the same coffee shop she stopped at before work. Rachel noticed him because he wasn't subtle. He kept glancing up from his phone as she waited for her drink. Then came the line. "Hey, do you work at Benson Publishing? You look really familiar." It caught her off guard. She looked up. "No, you must be confusing me with someone else." He gave a chuckle, relaxed and practiced. "Maybe, or maybe I just have good instincts." Rachel didn't respond. She went back to her phone. He didn't push it. Not that day. Still, something about the exchange lingered. It wasn't threatening, just calculated. She recognized the tactic. Some men didn't approach with blunt pickup lines. They played the chance meeting card, flirting disguised as coincidence. Just enough charm to appear harmless, but with eyes that were always watching, measuring. She hoped it ended there. It didn't. A few days later, he appeared again, this time at her gym. He wasn't dressed to work out, just leaning against the wall near the front desk. She noticed him in the mirror as she ran on the treadmill. He didn't hide the fact that he was watching her. When she finished and walked toward the water fountain, there he was. "Well," he said, flashing that same confident smile, "I guess fate really wants our paths to cross." Rachel didn't smile. She folded her arms. "Or maybe you're following me." He laughed like she'd made a clever joke. "I just think it's interesting. You believe in signs, don't you?" "I believe some people don't know when to stop." He raised his hands in mock surrender. "All right, message received. But if you ever change your mind—" She didn't let him finish. She turned and walked out. That time it stayed with her. This wasn't coincidence. This man wasn't bumping into her by chance. He was tracking her. And that realization settled in her chest like ice. She didn't tell Michael, not because she was hiding anything, but because she didn't want to blow it out of proportion. She started avoiding familiar places, skipped the coffee shop, took a different exit at the gym, parked on side streets instead of her usual lot. For a few days it seemed to work. Then came Friday. Rachel met her friend Amanda for dinner at a busy restaurant downtown. She'd chosen the place specifically because it was always packed, loud, and public. Safe. Halfway through the meal, Amanda went to the restroom, and Rachel scanned the room. Her stomach dropped. He was at the bar watching her. That same knowing smile. He waited until Amanda was gone before walking over. "The universe is really pushing this connection," he said, his voice low, as if this were some inside joke between them. Rachel didn't blink. "Listen, whatever game you're playing, I'm not interested. Stop showing up wherever I go." He smiled like she was overreacting. "Is that a request or an order?" "It's a warning." Something in her tone must have hit him. His smile faltered, just for a second. Then he shrugged, raised his hands, and walked away. Rachel didn't relax until he was gone. That night she kept thinking, who was this guy really? What did he want? It wasn't about her anymore. It felt bigger, planned. She didn't know it yet, but the real threat wasn't the man who kept showing up. It was the person who sent him. Saturday morning, Michael stepped outside to grab the mail. Between a stack of flyers and bills, one envelope stood out. Plain white, no return address. His name written in stiff, unfamiliar handwriting. He opened it without much thought. until he saw the contents. Photographs. His hands froze. There were at least a dozen. Rachel at the coffee shop, at the gym, at a restaurant. In every photo, that same man, the one Rachel had described once in passing as someone she kept running into, was nearby, sometimes looking at her, sometimes standing just close enough to suggest familiarity. Michael's heart pounded. None of the images were explicit or incriminating, but they were framed just right, enough to raise questions, enough to plant doubt. Who had taken them, and why send them to him? He took the photos inside, his expression unreadable. Rachel was upstairs getting ready for the day. She smiled when she saw him, then stopped. His face told her something was wrong. Michael handed her the envelope. "What's this?" "Someone left it in the mailbox." She looked inside, pulled out the photos, and flipped through them slowly. Her expression shifted from confusion to disbelief. "Are you kidding me?" she muttered. "These were taken without me knowing." Michael nodded. "I figured. That's the guy you mentioned?" Rachel pointed to one image. "Yes, that's him." She paced for a moment, processing. "He approached me no, 4 times. Grocery store, coffee shop, gym, and the restaurant where I had dinner with Amanda. I told him to leave me alone. I thought he got the message." Michael watched her closely. Her shock wasn't faked. He knew Rachel. She didn't overreact, and she never lied. "They wanted you to see these," she said after a pause. "They wanted you to think something's going on." Michael rubbed his jaw. "But who? And why?" Rachel sat down, eyes still on the pictures. "He wasn't just some random guy trying his luck. He was watching me, waiting for something." Michael's mind turned sharply. "You think he was paid?" She looked up. Wouldn't be the first time someone hired someone to cause trouble. That landed hard. If this was a setup, it wasn't just aimed at Rachel. It was meant to tear their marriage apart. Michael didn't let anger take over. Not yet. He needed answers. That night, he called 2 of his closest friends, Tyler and Josh. They'd grown up together, stood beside him during his toughest days, and knew how to handle things quietly. They met at a quiet bar on the edge of town. Michael laid it all out. The man, the photos, the timing. "This isn't some guy hitting on your wife," Josh said after a pause. He knew where she'd be. That means someone gave him her routine. Tyler leaned in. "And someone made sure those photos got to you. It's not about seducing Rachel. It's about making you think she cheated." Michael nodded. "I need to find him." Josh already had a lead. "I have a friend in private security. I'll get a name." 2 days later, he did. The man's name was Ethan Carter. He lived in a small complex downtown. No criminal record, but flagged for frequent cash transactions and known associations with low-level fixers. In other words, he did jobs for money. No questions asked. That evening, Michael, Tyler, and Josh waited outside Ethan's building. Just past sunset, Ethan stepped out, talking on his phone. Michael approached fast. "Ethan," he turned. His face shifted. Recognition, then defense. "Who the hell are you?" "You know who I am." Ethan looked around. Josh and Tyler flanked him. He realized quickly. This wasn't a coincidence. "I don't want trouble," he said, lowering his voice. "Then start talking," Michael said. Ethan tried to stay cool. "About what?" Michael pulled a photo from his jacket. "You were paid to follow my wife, to flirt with her, to be seen with her. I want a name." Ethan's jaw tightened. "I don't owe you anything." Josh crossed his arms. "We can wait all night. Your call." Silence. Ethan weighed his options. Then he exhaled. "Okay, yeah, I was paid." "By who?" Michael asked. Ethan hesitated. "If I tell you," he said quietly, "I could get in real trouble." "You're already in it," Tyler replied. "Don't make it worse." Ethan ran a hand over his face, then finally answered. "Her name is Lauren Bennett." Time stopped. Michael stared at him. "What did you just say?" "Lauren Bennett," Ethan repeated. "She gave me cash, told me where to be, and said I just had to get her friend's husband to see those photos." Rachel's best friend. The one who always acted like family. The one who gave advice. Who claimed to have their backs. the one who knew Rachel's schedule better than anyone else. Michael felt the breath leave his lungs. This wasn't just betrayal, it was war. Michael sat in silence for a long time after Ethan dropped the name. Lauren Bennett, Rachel's best friend, practically a sister, the one who hosted birthdays, dropped by unannounced with coffee, and always had something to say about Michael and Rachel's relationship. Sometimes helpful, sometimes just a little too invested. She was the last person he would have suspected, and yet the more he thought about it, the more the pieces fit. Lauren knew Rachel's habits, where she worked out, where she got coffee, which nights she saw friends. She'd even been at the restaurant that night, but left early. Rachel mentioned it once in passing. No red flags, until now. Michael stared at Ethan. "You're sure?" he asked quietly. "It was Lauren Bennett?" Ethan didn't flinch. "She met me in person, gave me half the money up front, told me who Rachel was, when to show up, and what to do. Flirt, linger, make it look like something might be going on. That's it. And the photos. She said she'd handle those. I wasn't supposed to worry about it." Michael didn't respond. He just turned and walked away. Tyler and Josh followed without asking questions. They could see it on his face. Michael wasn't angry. He was focused. This wasn't about a stranger anymore. This was personal. The betrayal didn't come from the outside. It came from inside their circle, from someone Rachel loved and trusted. And Michael wasn't going to let it sit. When he got home that night, Rachel was reading on the couch. She looked up, smiled, but stopped as soon as she saw his face. "What happened?" Michael didn't sit. "Where's Lauren?" Rachel blinked. "What?" "Call her. Ask her to come over." Rachel stood slowly. "Michael, what's going on? I just need you to trust me. Please, call her." Rachel hesitated. Then she picked up her phone. Lauren answered on speaker. "Hey, girl. What's up? Can you come over?" There was a pause. "Right now?" "Yeah, something's come up." "Sure. Be there in 30. Rachel hung up, turning to Michael. "Is this about—" "You'll see." 38 minutes later, Lauren walked through the front door, all smiles. She greeted Rachel with a hug, gave Michael a quick wave, and set her bag down like she owned the place. "Okay," she said. "What's the emergency?" Michael didn't waste time. "I know what you did." The room went still. Lauren's smile faltered, but just for a second. Then it snapped back, like nothing had happened. "Excuse me? I spoke to the guy, Ethan, the one you hired." Rachel's head turned so fast it looked like she'd been hit. "Hired? What are you talking about?" Lauren laughed, awkward, deflective. "Michael, I don't know who you talked to, but—" "He described you, where you met, what you paid him to do. He knew everything." Lauren stopped pretending. Her expression changed. Not scared, not ashamed, just cold. Rachel stared at her, frozen. "Lauren, is this true?" Lauren looked right at her. "Yes." No apology, no hesitation. Michael's jaw clenched. "Why?" Lauren shrugged, like she'd been waiting to say this for years. "Because I couldn't stand watching you pretend you had the perfect marriage. Because he deserved better. Because you're not as loyal as you make yourself out to be." Rachel's voice cracked. "You thought I was cheating? I didn't need to think it. I just needed him to think it. And it almost worked." Michael stepped forward, but Rachel held up a hand. Her voice was shaking now, but not from fear, from fury. "You've been in my life for years. I trusted you with everything, and you tried to destroy it all. For what?" Lauren crossed her arms. "Because I saw the cracks you ignored. Because you don't deserve what you have." Rachel laughed bitterly. "You were never protecting me. You were just waiting to take something from me." Michael's voice was steady. "Get out." Lauren looked at him, then at Rachel. "You'll regret this." "No," Rachel said, stepping aside, her voice steady now. "I already regret trusting you." Lauren didn't argue. She picked up her bag and walked out. The door shut behind her with a hard final sound. Rachel stood in the middle of the room, arms at her sides, eyes fixed on the door. She looked stunned, not from confusion, but from the weight of what had just been confirmed. She turned to Michael. "She really did it." Michael nodded. "She did." Rachel sat down slowly, like her legs might give out. All this time, she was right next to me. He sat beside her. She played both of us, but we didn't fall for it. That counts for something. Rachel stared at the wall. It doesn't feel like a win. No, he said, but it's not a loss either. They sat in silence. No more shouting, no more accusations, just the quiet understanding of what it meant to be betrayed by someone who claimed to care. But even in that silence, one thing was clear. Lauren had tried to destroy them, and she failed. The morning after Lauren's confession, the house felt unnaturally quiet. Rachel barely slept. Neither did Michael. They weren't arguing. They didn't need to. The weight of what had happened left them both in a state that wasn't quite shock, but not yet clarity either. Rachel sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through old messages, photos, group texts with Lauren, birthday wishes, voice notes. She deleted them all one by one. Not out of anger, out of necessity. She couldn't have those memories taking up space anymore. Michael stood nearby, watching. He didn't interrupt. He knew she needed time. Later that day, Rachel called her friend Amanda, the one who'd been at dinner that night. Amanda was just as stunned. She confirmed something Rachel had suspected but hadn't wanted to believe. Lauren had been talking behind her back for months. Subtle things, doubts, questions about Rachel's loyalty, comments about Michael being too trusting. Amanda hadn't thought much of it, just Lauren being nosy. Now it made sense. By the afternoon, the story had spread quietly through their circle of friends. No drama, no online fallout, just phone calls, disbelief, and distance. People had questions, but Rachel didn't answer them. She owed no one an explanation. What mattered was what she and Michael had survived. A few days later, Michael met with Josh and Tyler again. They asked how Rachel was holding up. He told them the truth. She was processing, healing, but something about her had shifted. She wasn't broken, but she was changed. Betrayal does that. Josh shook his head. You gonna press charges? Michael thought about it. What Lauren had done wasn't illegal in a traditional sense. She hadn't forged anything, stolen money, or caused physical harm. But hiring someone to stalk and manipulate another person? It was a gray area, one he didn't want to leave unchallenged. I've already spoken to a lawyer, he said. Even if we can't charge her with much, we can make sure there's a record. Tyler nodded. Good. People like that don't stop until someone puts a wall in front of them. Michael didn't want revenge. He wanted protection. For Rachel, for their life, for the years they'd built. So he moved forward legally. A formal complaint, a restraining order. Nothing flashy, just documentation that made one thing clear. If Lauren tried anything again, it wouldn't go unanswered. Rachel didn't fight him on it. She was quiet when he brought it up, then simply said, do it. Meanwhile, Ethan Carter, the man Lauren had paid, disappeared. Probably figured it was smarter to move on. Michael didn't pursue him. Ethan wasn't the real threat. He was a tool, nothing more. The real damage had come from someone much closer. In the weeks that followed, Rachel started rebuilding her routine. Slowly, she returned to her gym, stopped hiding her schedule. She didn't want fear to run her life. She knew Lauren was watching, or at least waiting for fallout. But Rachel refused to give her that satisfaction. Michael stayed present, but didn't hover. He trusted Rachel to handle her recovery in her own way. Instead, he focused on reminding her that nothing had changed between them. They still had trust. That was the one thing Lauren hadn't been able to break. One evening, Rachel came home from work and sat beside Michael on the couch. She used to say she wanted a love like ours, she said quietly. Michael looked over. I remember. Rachel didn't cry. She wasn't angry, but her voice was tired. I think she always hated it. She couldn't find it for herself, so she tried to ruin someone else's. Rachel nodded. But it didn't work. No, Michael said. It didn't. They sat there for a long time. No TV, no music. Just the quiet of two people realizing they'd come out the other side of something heavy. Lauren, meanwhile, had become isolated. She wasn't invited to dinners anymore. Friends distanced themselves. Amanda stopped responding to her messages. No public blowout, just quiet rejection. That was worse. Lauren tried to spin the story, claimed Michael had misunderstood, that Ethan was lying, that she had only meant to test Rachel's loyalty. But the damage was done. Too many people knew the truth, and the truth didn't need defending. She lost the very circle she once tried to manipulate. Alone with her bitterness, she faded into the background, where she belonged. Rachel didn't celebrate that. She didn't need revenge. She needed peace. And slowly she found it. It didn't happen overnight. But each morning she woke up and looked at Michael. She knew something important had survived. Not just love, but clarity, boundaries, and the knowledge that even in the face of betrayal, they'd chosen to believe in each other. And won. 2 months after Lauren's betrayal, life had settled into a new kind of normal. Michael and Rachel didn't pretend everything was fine, because it wasn't. They didn't gloss over the hurt or skip past the anger. Instead, they dealt with it one conversation at a time. Sometimes those conversations were quiet, other times they were hard, but every one of them brought them closer instead of pulling them apart. Rachel had changed in subtle ways. She was more guarded with who she let into her life, more intentional about setting boundaries. The betrayal hadn't made her bitter, but it had made her sharper. Michael understood something new about himself, too. That trust wasn't about the absence of doubt. It was about what you did when doubt was introduced. When those photos showed up, everything could have fallen apart. But it didn't, because he chose to believe in the person he'd committed to. One evening, they sat together on the back porch, watching the sun go down. It had been a long day, but a good one. Rachel spoke first. "Do you ever think about how close we came to losing all of this?" Michael looked at her. "Yeah, more than I want to admit." She nodded slowly. "I still don't understand what she was trying to prove." "She wasn't trying to prove anything," he said. "She just wanted to break something she didn't have." Rachel sat with that thought for a while. Then she asked something that had been sitting with her for weeks. "Did you ever doubt me, even for a second?" Michael didn't rush the answer. "I saw those pictures, and they were meant to make me doubt. That's the truth. But when I looked at your face, I didn't feel suspicion. I felt confusion, because what they showed didn't match the person I know, and I decided to trust that." Rachel nodded, visibly relieved, not because she needed validation, but because she needed to hear that his trust had been a choice, not a coincidence. Later that week, Rachel received a formal notice. The restraining order against Lauren had been processed. Lauren wouldn't be allowed within a certain distance of either of them, physically or digitally. No calls, no texts, no attempts at contact. Rachel read it and filed it away without ceremony. She wasn't interested in revenge. She didn't care if Lauren regretted what she'd done or not. The point wasn't punishment. It was protection, a clear line that could never be crossed again. Over time, the tension around them began to ease. Friends who had stepped back began to reconnect. Those who truly cared. The rest simply drifted off, and Rachel didn't chase them. Amanda, one of the few who stayed loyal, said something over lunch that stuck with Rachel. "You know what's wild? Lauren always made herself out to be the victim in everything. She'd spin every story until it sounded like someone else's fault. But this time, no one believed her. You didn't have to defend yourself. The truth just stood on its own." Rachel smiled. "Yeah, it usually does." That evening, Rachel found an old photo, one from a few years back. It was of her, Michael, and Lauren at a barbecue. Everyone was laughing. She stared at it for a moment, then calmly slid it into the trash. Not out of spite, just closure. By the end of summer, the incident had become something they talked about less and less. But the lessons stayed with them. They learned that people can be close to you for years and still carry hidden motives. That betrayal doesn't always come from enemies. It often comes from those who pretend to be allies. And most importantly, they learned that trust isn't something you protect by shutting people out. It's something you reinforce by choosing the right people and letting the wrong ones go. Michael and Rachel didn't come out of the experience unchanged, but they came out stronger, more honest, and more aligned in what they valued: loyalty, clarity, and truth. They never saw Lauren again. Occasionally, someone mentioned her in passing, usually followed by an awkward silence. Rachel didn't react. She didn't need to. In the end, Lauren's scheme failed, not because it lacked planning, but because it underestimated the one thing she never truly understood: the strength of a marriage built on mutual respect. The damage she tried to cause didn't destroy anything. It revealed everything. And for Rachel and Michael, that was enough.